Hey Jules, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. How are you?
All good, all good. Well, we've been talking for the past 20 minutes already, but like, can you make a brief intro about yourself for the audience? Like, what's
Okay,
your
yeah.
academic profile?
So, my name is Jules, and I play Collegiate Rocket League, and I've also played Women's Rocket League. That's sort of where I started out, and I started developing my skills. And then I sort of found my footing in CRL, and now I'm going to Northwood University for cybersecurity for my bachelor's.
That's great. And what made you like, what were you started in Rocket League, and why did you decide to take it so seriously to the extent
Um,
that you were like a recognized coach and a player? Like, what made it, you
Okay,
know?
so there's this kind of phenomenon that I've heard people talk about. It's sort of like, I mean, the pandemic just happened. Whenever the pandemic happened, I feel like a lot of people sort of found their sort of group or their passion or whatever. I found Rocket League. I already knew what Rocket League was, obviously, and like I was like grand champ or whatever, but I was just kind of like whatever. I was like ready to never touch it again after solo queuing there. I was like, oh, this game's not worth it. Um, and then, I was like, then I found like the women's scene. And I was like, wow, this actually seems really cool. And like, I kind of found like a community that was like me. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And I started just, I was like, oh, and I'm all right. I'm not great, but I'm here. And I had fun just like sort of reinvigorating that like competitive passion that I once had in like other sports just through like a video game, which is ridiculous. Felt ridiculous, but it also felt very natural as well.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And how welcoming was the community? Because sometimes we hear, like some communities, depending on the video game, it can be a bit, you
Uh,
know.
yeah. The women's scene is very, very, very tiny. So it's very like clicky, but not necessarily in a bad way. Always, I think everybody's pretty accepting generally. Yeah,
That's
yeah. And also,
amazing.
like all like the what do they call? I guess they would be like the tournament runners and like all of the staff. The staff is great for all of the women's scene. I just like they've always been great, very fast, and yeah, it's a shame what happened, but I understand it. They they deserve to get paid for their work. So
Do you think that's collegiate is a great avenue to like, depending on where you are in Rocket League, at what stage you are, maybe collegiate can be a great, you know, like
yeah,
stage of life to continue. Like,
yeah. I think no matter what level you are, you should be looking into collegiate Rocket League. The age for Rocket League players is super young. So like pro players are sometimes like 15 years old now. That's which is crazy. Like I imagine when I was doing at 15 years old, I was not making really much money. I was not making really any money. I was going to high school. But a lot of these kids are playing Rocket League, making thousands of dollars a month. So they're technically at the age where like they can drop out and they can just like not go to school. Um, yeah, which is not great. I definitely would not encourage that. Um, Educating yourself is very important because, yeah, Rocket League is not. It's not gonna be your forever job. I mean, maybe it will if you like go into like content creation, but as soon as you retire, that's it. Unless you do
yeah,
content creation, that's it. So
yeah, yeah. That's why a
definitely
lot of
helps thinking
players.
towards towards the future. Yeah.
Yes, because like like starting salaries when you're gonna graduate from cybersecurity, are
Hmm.
gonna be way much higher, and they're gonna compound as the years go by,
Yeah.
and
It should be
compared
kind
to the
of the other
scene.
way
Yeah,
around. It'd be like, oh, I used to be a Rocket League pro. Now I'm this. It shouldn't be like, I don't know. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with being a content creator. It's just there's kind of a crossroads there. You either become a content creator or you just kind of fall off once you're retired. There's not really
yeah,
like much you can do about that.
yeah. And I wanted, to ask you this because like it's not an unconventional path, but like you're doing like an online degree and being part of an esport program. Like not many
Right.
universities across the country,
No.
offer those opportunities. So how is it, to like do your bachelor's degree online in cybersecurity and be
It's
part
weird.
of
It's
the team?
definitely weird because like my whenever I told my parents, they were like, are you sure this is a thing? Like are you sure? I'm like yes mom. And then like everybody's like, what, you do that, you get scholarship for that? I'm like, yeah, you can actually get full rides. I mean, you know, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's it's also just like very new. There's not a lot of people who even know what an esport is. They're like, I have to like find a new way to explain Rocket League that's like super simple. I usually just explain, I'm just like, it's just like a sport, but like you control the sport. It's like an actual sport. The sky is a ceiling. Players are individually like gifted and talented. Like I think I don't know like what this actually like looks like, but I think there is like a genetic like intuition to Rocket League that some people have, and that's why people are able to just literally outscale like everybody else, and that's why Zen is like the best. He's just naturally gifted.
Yeah, yes. Especially the reaction times and
Yeah,
everything. Like, it's how can I put it? Like, it's easier to grasp, but then to get better, to get to the top level, like you need to put in the repetition stuff. Like,
yeah. To
but
to
yeah,
learn it is easy. I mean, you
yes,
can learn it, but like to actually like
yeah,
get
yeah,
there and be able to consistently do that takes a lot of
yeah,
work. And not only a lot of work, but you have to be talented and put in the work. Like you can't just be talented. Being talented won't really get you that far. There's plenty of people
yeah,
who are just talented, but they don't do anything with it.
yeah. No, that's totally correct. And with the online like studies, like how do you like because in your associate's degree you did it in person, then you
Yeah.
transferred to Northwood to now complete your undergraduate. Like how was the transition from in person to online? Is it a lot of work? Is it
Yeah.
the learning styles are different? How do you combine it? How do you,
Um, so I grew up like traditional, like everybody sits in a classroom and the teacher teaches, and then have assignments and they like grade it there, and then you have like homework. Um, yeah, it was a huge change. I grew up on that, and then I went to college and I was still doing that, and then the pandemic happened, and they were like, "All right, here is a class." Well, some classes. My first class was just like this. It was just like a video call, and then there's like a teacher, and they were like teaching. So it felt weird, but it kind of worked, I guess. And then eventually, I had a class where I actually like no teacher. I mean, there was a teacher, but they were just like, if you need help, there's help. But here's the book. Here's the assignments. Here's when the assignments due. Do your best. No guidelines. No like, this, that. Like, it was very just self-paced, and I had to learn like how to learn, which I think is a good thing, but also like it just is a lot of work. It's very difficult. Like for me specifically, I found that it's a lot easier to like have like text to speech whenever I'm reading. Whenever I didn't have text to speech and I was just reading books, I would not have made it to where I am if I had to read that way. Like I'm able to read like I don't know 100 pages in like a day because like and actually understand it because I can do text to speech. That's literally it. But I had to put in the initial work, but eventually it did end up working out for me. It is a lot of
okay.
work though.
It's interesting because like more and more, like for sure, like players and coaches are going to, also because of flexibility and stuff, are going to start deciding to go more online. So, having your perspective is super important. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question. But yeah, and how's the practice schedule as a player? Like, How do you manage that
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
team?
that's difficult because everybody sort of is in full-time classes on my team, and I'm in
Mhm.
my bachelor's and they're both doing their masters. And we're full-time students and they also have jobs and jobs, so like scrimming is not as important. I mean, it's important, but like we don't scrim every day. I think we only scrim like twice a week, 2, 3 times a week on the weekends. It's just important to like make sure that time is more meaningful. So like we try not to like waste any time. As soon as we're getting it, we're usually like talking about it's like I'm usually like, oh, so I was looking at our replays and we should try. I'm gonna try to do this. You guys should try to do that, and then we try to spend more time figuring stuff out like that rather than just throwing time at the game because there's not
Mhm.
time is not abundant. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of competition, like, is it very packed throughout the year? Is it easygoing? Like
I
the tournaments, the league?
I don't really know yet. We have our first, I guess, we had our seeding last week, and then we have like our actual like match this week, I guess.
Mhm.
We did pretty good. I mean, we've been scrimming against like 1,600 teams, and I mean, I'm not gonna say like we've been destroying them, but we've been destroying some 1,600 teams. So like, I don't know, it's weird. I think genuinely, like my team's around 1,700, so I think we're gonna do pretty well in like our little tournament that we have going, and I think we might. I'm not completely sure how the tournament format works yet. I'm pretty sure there's
Mhm.
like what's it called, like delegation or something. So like if you win like your tournament or whatever, like you go up an extra tier or whatever. So like
Mhm.
yeah. So like if we just won too much, we would just go up. Which yeah, I think we'll just. But yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So you're enjoying the being a player because, like, as a coach, I think that is was usually like your strength. So how was the that transition?
Yeah. So being I have always been a player from when I started, but I kind of quickly realized after getting some professional coaches that I was probably not gonna be the best in the world. I mean, that's okay. Not everybody can be the best of the world in something, but I knew that I could at least learn, and I also thought that there was still something to learn there. So I was like, oh, I'll just do it. I just kind of been learning for fun, and I just sort of tried to just focus on like coaching because I'm definitely able to like look at like evidence and like I have a very good eye of just like looking at something and being able to describe it very well. And also like I think, I'm decent at teaching. I've been practicing a lot of teaching. So like coaching has like really helped me not as a player, but just as like I guess an asset to like a company. Like I feel like this is something that I can like say like, oh, I've had this sort of proactive learning orientation towards just learning something just because I wanted to, basically.
Mhm. And could you dive deeper into the four pillars that you talked
Okay.
about before the call? Yeah, because that was super interesting.
Okay, so yeah, this is an adaptation of something random. I didn't completely create this.
Okay.
This is like an adaptation. This is gonna sound so random. I was watching a Mario Kart 8 video, and there was someone talking about speedrunning. They're talking about something called the four pillars that they created. And I was like, all right, I gotta adapt this to Rocket League because it makes a lot of sense. There's just something that's missing. So we got knowledge. So that's anything that you know about like whatever you're learning. Then you got consistency. So that's how effectively you can do whatever it is. Then you got time. That's how much time you spend. And then the fourth pillar that I sort of added on there was fun. Because if you're not having fun, those three things aren't happening. That's I think the most important part because I mean time, sure. Time's also pretty important because like how you spend your time, you can waste a lot of time doing nothing. Nothing
Mhm.
like and that's not even just with the Rocket League. That's just with anything. You can waste your time learning something that isn't important. Being able to like
A lot of information.
yeah, being able to change like what you're learning based on like like a review or like a test, a review, a competition, whatever. You can apply this any other way. But being able to go back and change how you learn something is very important. And then I put fun on there because, I mean, if you look at like, especially like the best like Rocket League players, I mean, Zen owned gold. And then, he owned gold at Worlds. And then you know what he did? He laughed. I mean, imagine if he got down on himself and then just started throwing. You know what I mean? Having fun and accepting mistakes for what they are, it's just a mistake. It's what you do afterwards is what matters. That's pretty much all that is there. Because if you just focus on your mistake, oh, I made a mistake, you're gonna stay there in that perpetual cycle. But if you have a review and you say, oh, I made this mistake, here's how I can fix it, here's the solution. That's it. There's no emotion attached to it. It's just a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you like when you coach players, like how do you like implement the 4 pillars, and like also like as you mentioned, you do a lot of bot reviews, and you focus, on like fixing those small mistakes. But like, how would like a weekly training schedule, with a player look like for you? Or
Okay,
how do you build
so
it? Yeah.
all right, a lot of my coaching is around just teaching players how to coach themselves rather than like
Okay.
saying, go for a flip reset here, go for this there, go for that. I'm trying to not like I'm trying to get them to be able to teach themselves and be able to like improve themselves, because whenever you only see someone for an hour, there's only so much I could realistically give to them in an hour anyways. So I feel like by doing that, I would be doing a disservice anyways. So by teaching someone to teach themselves, I'm able to basically just get them to a point where they can figure it out for themselves, and then they can improve. Because I feel like whenever you're given the tools to figure it out for yourself, you can honestly just build the knowledge for yourself and actually understand it. Because sometimes
Yeah.
whenever someone just gives you something, it's just kind of like, okay. But if you're able to like build it from the ground up yourself, you're like, oh, I understand how this works. I understand, because sometimes there's like synergies between things, not everything's always intuitive.
Yeah. Yeah. But giving them the tools for sure is super important. Yeah. Amazing. And like there was a point that also that I want to talk about, and it was like, do you think esports like motivated you to continue with your studies, or were you gonna do it anyways? Did it make it more enjoyable?
I feel
Like,
like this could definitely be different for other people, but for me,
yeah,
I was already wanted to go back to school. This was just sort of like a way for me to like get there. And like I knew that there was already opportunities, and I was kind of like, well, if I get good enough at Rocket League and I, finish my associates, I could probably find something decent. Because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of schools wanted my SATs, and I did not do well in the SATs. I'm not very good at tests, but I get good grades though. So like I don't know. Yeah. So like I just knew that through esports I could definitely like be able to find something that was actually fun and I enjoyed, and I could like get like a potential like good like academic opportunity too, right? So like not only am I gonna be able to be like, oh, I play Rocket League on Thursdays, oh that's fun, but like I can like get a degree out of this like
yeah,
afterwards.
that's amazing. And from like with all those years that you invested in Rocket League, like once you graduate, do you want to build forward, like more in the scene, like you want to make an impact in the scene, or do you want to like switch and go to your cybersecurity job
Yeah,
and make another base like
I'm
this?
definitely not leading Rocket League anytime soon. I'm still
Mhm.
working on things every day. Um, I don't know if I could. I've tried to do the whole streaming thing. That's not my thing. Um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do YouTube videos. I'm also working on like a few projects. So like the one project is like I'm working on like understanding AI, and I want to like I don't even know. Like I want to learn how to like hone my competitive efficiency with AI, basically. Just figure out like what mistakes are happening where when every game from game to game,
Yeah.
because there's not really like a software that does that. There's software that like they have that they're like, oh, like, you know, here's your statistics, here's what's wrong, but like they're not always useful. Like that's the
Yeah.
problem, is they're not always useful. I want to create something that's like an actual useful tool, because what's powerful about Rocket League is like not only is it like a real sport, but everything is already in there. The problems with other sports was like they just you couldn't like specifically measure anything. Like it's in reality. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
for like in football or whatever, you have like a first down. It's like, it's close enough. It's like, and then like they have to like get out the line. I don't know. And like there's like they have to like sometimes there's bad calls. There's no referees in Rocket League. Everything's already in there. There's no. I mean, there is some sort of some uncertainty like whenever it comes like technical issues, but
Yeah.
like generally it's very contained. So like it should be a lot easier to measure like with artificial intelligence.
Do you think it's there, to make it change? Because like I see all these tools coming up. Do you think the tech is there where it's super useful for you, or do you think still there needs
Oh,
to
it's
be?
computer computers are dumb. Like I don't like the way that computers work is not like not good. They use ones and
Mhm.
zeros. So literally everything that you do is like an approximation. There's no actual like so like mathematically it's never gonna it can only be so good. That's why like they're building like these giant computers to like build this AI. It's the computer is very slow. It's kind of like if you look back in history, it's like, oh, look at these crazy pictures of like the computers with like the vacuum tubes. Like that's yeah, that's kind of what's happening here. It's like we're like, oh, we don't have the actual technology to do this, so we're just gonna build more of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, I also, now that you, well, of course, you're a student, in the collegiate scene. So for those players watching us, specifically in X, what is like one recommendation that you would give them for those that are thinking to jump into collegiate and stand out? Both, it can be academically or
Like
competitively, like,
just
yeah,
CRL players or people looking to get into CRL?
people looking to get into serial. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say definitely look into CRL. I mean, if you're a Rocket League player, I mean, I think it just makes sense. Why not further your education and keep
Mhm.
doing what you're doing? I mean, you can get money from it if you're good enough. I mean, I'm not good enough, but you might be. Um, but I mean, if not, does it matter? You're getting a degree out of it. It's not like you're not getting anything out of it. You're getting a good education, and you're gonna be able to actually, if this whole Rocket League thing doesn't work out for you, you can be like, oh, I can go do this. And there you go. You have a way to make money, and you're not just like, oh, I have no high school diploma or I have no college education. Because I can tell you, I had an associate's and I was trying to find a job. I could not find a job. I applied to so many jobs and it was hard to find really anything. It's really, really hard out there. So, like, having a degree is pretty much necessary at this point. It's kind of sad. It's really, really hard to get a job that isn't like a cashier or something like that if you don't have a college degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. And especially, Rocket League, like you have like players going from a very young age, uh, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
like taking it serious, and sometimes it can affect their schooling and finishing school.
Right, right,
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah, we've worked with a couple of players. I was telling you that we like they were like in their 20s, and they were like, there's no way I'm going to go back to school and for 2 more years with 16, 17-year-olds, and we're like, like in the US, we have this GED thing, that
Yeah.
you can take it in 3 to 6 months, and you can go to higher
Oh,
education, and they were
yes.
like, what? And their parents were like, whatever, Ivan, but just just mainly go to uni.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know what to do.
Yeah. And
But
like, depending on like your local wherever you live,
yeah,
sometimes they offer like free classes at like your local high school or whatever. Because I know that's how my aunt did it. My aunt ended up getting her GED and then her associates, and she like got free classes at like her local high school or something. She just went there for like you said, like 3 or 4 months, and then yeah, it's not that bad. It's a great way to get educated.
and before we wrap up, is there something that I missed that you would like to talk about?
Um, no, I think we've went over a good bit. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, Jules, I really appreciate your time. Okay,
Yeah,
and as
you as
always,
well.
we'll stay in touch.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, hopefully, like you graduate soon and start your career in cybersecurity.
All right, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right.